What's up, YouTube? Here with my top 3 2025 series that I've read so far this year. Now, some of these are not complete. Some of them are semi-complete. But I feel like I've read enough of them that I'm like, this is going somewhere. I can't see at this point where it could go totally off the rails. See me in 6 months and see if I still think that way. Might not. But overall, I will say there is some that I would have put on that list, and I thought about it. The First Law. The First Law, I've read the first 2 books, and I'm currently reading the third one. It is great, and I wanted to add that to this list, and I really thought I was going to add this to this list, maybe even as a top book. The reason why I didn't is because when I got to thinking about it, I'm like, The First Law is a great series, but it's great because of the character work in it. As far as the world is concerned, the world is kind of mid, to be honest with you. The mid, it isn't a world that is striking. It's not a world that you remember. To be honest, I can't even remember after reading those books exactly what that world is called, what the countries is. I don't remember, and the reason why I don't remember is because that's not the point of that book. The point of that book is Joe Abercrombie knows that he can get away with just having great character work because that's his bread and butter, and he does just that. And he don't necessarily worry about the world around him. He don't worry about expanding the worlds like a lot of these authors do. What most authors do, because most authors are not as talented as him when it comes to character work, and that's just honest truth. Now, one that I do believe is close to that is actually on this list, Red Rising. Pierce Brown is an amazing author. I mean, what can you say about Pierce Brown? What can you say about Darrow? You know, you just take Darrow, for instance. What a genuinely flawed protagonist. What a protagonist that stands out, that you can root for, but you also know his failings just as well as the people inside the book know his failings. You don't have to just know his inner thoughts to know to be able to understand who he is as a person. And as the book goes, his ambition grows. His ambition grows, and the ambition of the story grows. I mean, eventually, it just comes to, getting revenge for his wife, to then, taking down this group of people, to then, next thing you know, to not just taking over this group of people, but major worlds involved in this conflict, and then trying to regrow it in a way that will be fair for all. It's an amazing story. That and the secondary characters. Secondary characters. To me, I think the biggest, in these 2 books are always compared to each other, Red Rising and Sun Eater. To me, the biggest difference between Red Rising and Sun Eater is I can remember the side characters from Red Rising. In fact, I know almost everything about these characters from Red Rising, where in Sun Eater, I can't remember anybody but Marlowe. That's the honest truth. I cannot remember a single person other than Marlowe. When each book that I read, it seems like in the Sun Eater books, I'm having to go back and be like, who exactly was that person? Do I remember them from the other book? Mostly, I'm that way with almost everybody in those Sun Eater books. Now, they're not bad books. Don't get me wrong. They're not bad. I'm not hating on them. I'm just saying, Red Rising does a far better job. Pierce Brown does a far better job in creating a world that feels so complete, so magnificent and expanding. You feel like you're going to new places, and you're feeling like you're getting to see the most important parts of those places. You're not just going to these worlds just to go off to say that you're on, I don't know, Neptune, let's just give a hypothetical, or Mars or something like that. You're going there and you're seeing the most important parts of these places, where it's not leaving you with this sense of, well, it would have been better if we could have seen more of this or seen more of that. I don't ever get that from these books. I don't ever get that from Red Rising. Red Rising, I always leave it feeling fulfilled. Now that said, Red Rising, people will call the original, or the first book in Red Rising, kind of a YA book. I disagree. I don't think it's anything like the Hunger Games. I really don't. I think that is something that people who don't like Red Rising want to try to compare it to as a knock on it. But the truth is the Hunger Games is an amazing series in itself. I don't understand why everybody hates on YA. I get it to a certain extent, but the way I always look at it is you have to take a genre and place it, whether the age group in it or whether it be the, like take Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a good example. Where you have in Harry Potter, it's a middle grade book. It is what it is. And then people are like, well, I'm an adult. I'm not going to be reading Harry Potter. Well, I think you're stupid if you're doing that. I really do. The reason why is because you're missing out on a great books. Because you're not taking it as it is. It's a middle grade book. It's not supposed to be Red Rising. Red Rising is not the Hunger Games. Red Rising is incredibly brutal. Even far more brutal than the Hunger Games ever could be. It's clearly an adult book. Clearly an adult book that really dives into some really deep moral conundrums. I think that's some of the amazing parts about it. It blurs the moral lines so well that your protagonist cross it, and you see why their enemies hate them, because you see the flaws of these characters. Now, the biggest problem that I do have with Red Rising, but it's not as big of a problem as what it is for most people when it comes to it, is the first person. I'm not a big fan of first person books. I'm not a big fan of it at all. I think that you're just asking for trouble to a certain extent when it comes to it. But that being said, he did get into trouble. On the third book of this, Pierce Brown made a huge mistake at the very end of it, and you don't hear it called out enough, but he truly almost ruined that book and that series for me. I think if it wasn't for the love of this series, I probably would have quit it right then and there. But that's just me when it comes to that. But overall, I would recommend this book to anybody. I'd recommend it to. I think this is amazing read. I will, once I get done completely and totally, I will be rereading this series probably countless times until I have this book and all this series memorized. Now the second one, bit of a shock. Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Denneman. This book, I believe, was self-published at one time. I don't know how. I don't know how somebody, and that kind of makes you wonder, what is the publishing world like now? When somebody would read that book and go, you know what, I don't think people would watch that or care about that. It sounds like the stupidest concept ever. And I went 6 months of this year without even giving this book a second thought. I thought, why would I want to do this? I don't care about lit RPG. I'm not really a gamer. So why would I even care to read Dungeon Crawler Carl? Well, I gave it a shot. And I'm very thankful I did. Man, am I thankful I did. And how wrong was I? Because I really was wrong. I was just as wrong as all those that turned this book down. And but like I said, I mentioned Harry Potter earlier. And people forget Harry Potter got turned down a lot. And look at what it is. It was an actual phenomenon. And I think Dungeon Crawler Carl is, to a certain extent, a lesser extent, a phenomenon in itself too. Now, I am currently on book 5 of this series, and I have loved every single one of these books except book 3. I had a huge problem with book 3. It was just overly convoluted, and every time that I went to try to get answers online, thinking that I just missed something, Even the author said, well, he don't even understand what it's about. So I'm like, I don't know how you wrote a book that you don't even know how things work in it. I don't know what you're on to write a book where you don't know where your characters are supposed to be going, how the world that you created works. I don't understand that. As an author myself, those 3 books behind me are mine that you see the faces of. I'm an author. I don't see how you can write a world where that you can't even explain your world. Like, I just feel like you're asking for trouble at that point. I really do. But it works for him. When I first read this book, the very first book, it kind of bothered me because it did take a little bit of getting used to, and it really did come on hard when it was like, power-ups is this and this and this. And yeah, it was funny. It had its moments. But I kind of got a little sick and tired of hearing it at the very first. And I almost DNF'd this book. I really almost did. The very first book of this, I literally almost DNF'd. I was probably about 10 pages away from DNFing it. I sat down, I was like, you know what? I'm going to finish this book, and I'm glad I did. Because I actually gave that first book a 4 out of 5 by the end of it. It just took some while to get used to the power-ups because I never read a book like that. Probably never would after this either. You know, this didn't make me a lit RPG fan. I like Dungeon Crawler Carl, but would I go out there and try, another lit RPG? Probably not. Probably not. It's just not for me. But let's talk about the reason why I like this book. It's just funny. It's not the tries too hard funny. It's not the doing funny and shock value just in a grotesque way just to be funny. It's funny because it's just naturally funny. Matt Denneman is just a naturally funny person, and he brings that out in his characters. And each one of these characters, whether you're listening to the audiobook, which I do recommend, listen to the audiobook. If you don't like audiobook on anything else, please try it with Dungeon Crawler Carl. Even if it's your second reread of it, try the audiobooks because they are amazing. But Dungeon Crawler Carl is by far one of the best audiobooks out there. But each one of these characters, even in your own head, if you're just reading it, has its own place. I'll just flat out say it. Princess Donut is one of the best sidekicks in modern fantasy. She is, or sci-fi, or whatever you may call this. She is one of the best sidekicks. For everything that I said about Red Rising, about the side characters in that, I can say about Dungeon Crawler Carl as well, because Dungeon Crawler Carl, I have almost all the characters memorized. I've gone through almost five books of this, and I have never had a moment where I'm like, who was that person again over there? Because I know them, because they're all living in my head now. And they're living in many of y'all's heads too, because this is just an amazing book. And you know what? Some of the times the stakes get a little bit crazy, but the emotional stakes kind of creep up on you, and then they kind of, in the craziness of it, kind of makes sense. And you kind of enjoy the craziness that actually goes into it. And you feel like you're always progressing. I guess I don't know if it's, the old gaming aspect of me, even though I don't really do it that much anymore. But it's something about progressing to a next level or a next thing that actually does kind of become addictive to a certain extent. And, and I'll say this, I've never really, except in that third book, ever had any kind of reading slump with it. The pacing is just consistent. I won't even go so far as saying the book that I did not really enjoy, the pacing was consistent. I just didn't enjoy the plot for the most part of it. But I think it is an amazing series. I pray that every one of y'all who are skeptical on this book will change your minds and give it a shot. Just give it a shot. Give it one book. I guarantee you, if you don't like it after the first book, you probably won't like the second book. So it's one of those. It's not one of those that you have to read, let's say Malazan, where you got to read to like book 6 before you like it. No. You don't have to do that. You can just read one book, and I guarantee you'll probably be hooked on it. But anyways, I'm going to go to the third book, our third series, Lockwood and Company, The Screaming Staircase. It's the first book in this. Lockwood and Company, I believe, has 5 books to it. 5 books to it. And this was one that you probably heard me a million times just in this short life of this channel where that I have praised Harry Potter. I was a grown man before I read Harry Potter, and I read it because for no other reason than I was bored in a parking lot and had nothing else to do. So I gave it a shot and I started reading it, and I thought it was probably, like, it blew my mind. It blew my mind as an author. It blew my mind as an adult. I can't imagine what it would feel to read this as a child. It would probably blow my mind then. It's one of my favorite all-time series of all time. All time. If that made any sense. But I will say Lockwood and Company has, it's almost surpassed it. Really almost has. You deal with the 3 main protagonists of it, George, Lockwood, and Lucy, and you're in Lucy's brain. Now, it's kind of one of those first-person perspectives too, and it does a really good job to it as well. But it is just absolutely amazing, and it's amazing because the concept is incredibly unique. I mean, the concept of this story is you are in a world where that they're having a ghost, pandemic or epidemic, whatever word you use for that, and you have only children being able to see it, but everybody's fearful of being ghost touched. It's a danger, and so you have at nighttime you have construction workers and kids roaming the streets at night because as guards and different things along those lines, taking the jobs from adults because adults cannot sense these ghosts. Now, that might be too much for people, but Stroud makes this work. Stroud, I tell you, you want to talk about a guy who can create prose that there's no wasted words. There's never a sentence that I can't say aloud in a Lockwood and Company book and be stumbled in any form or fashion, because the man has some tight prose. Tight prose. He is an amazing author. I will read anything from Jonathan Stroud from this point on. I think he is just a fabulous author. But as far as the series goes, basically you have a protagonist that is, she's got that soft British humor, and it's not overpowering, and it's not, she's very modest, but she's also very strong. She's a great female protagonist. Probably, I would say, I would put Lucy up there with, in the Bloodsworn trilogy, I'd put her up there with Orca as one of my favorite female protagonists of all time. Simply because, it's something about the way she just handles things. She handles her business, but then she's not, like one of those that's like, I am woman, hear me roar kind of thing either. It's not one of those kind of things. It's like she's a normal human. She's a normal human. I don't like the shows or the books where that guys are in there and they're better at everything. Like, I don't like those. I don't like those. I don't like the Mary Sues or the Gary Stews. I don't like any of those. But she is amazing. The world of this is absolutely amazing. And you might think the concept's a little bit odd, but it does work within it. And I'll tell you another thing that works in it, and the reason why I'd put it even above Harry Potter, is the trio dynamic is very strong. Each one of these characters are not left out. They each have their role, and they each play a significant role. Where in Harry Potter, you had either one of them being off somewheres and not really fully in the book for most of the books until I think it's like, book 5? I think it's book 5 of Harry Potter before that doesn't really happen. So there's that aspect to it. I feel like they're all strong characters in it. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the creativeness that they have in the ghosts. It never feels repetitive. Each one of these ghosts feel completely and totally different, which is saying something because in this book you have hundreds, absolutely hundreds of ghosts in this, and not a single one of them feels repetitive at all. The only problem that I would say with this series that I had in the very first book, and it might throw some readers off, is I kind of felt like in the first book, the story doesn't necessarily start off in the main plot. Or at least it don't seem like it does for most of the book. So most of it, you're kind of like, what is this screaming staircase? Not to give anything away, but I'll just flat out give it away. You don't know that has anything to do with that later on, until at the end of the book. So it's brilliant in that way. It's a nice little surprise, but it's a great little mystery, a whodunit kind of situation, because you're solving murders in this book. Like, you are solving murders in this book. So it's not like one of those little kiddish things. There's people that die in this series, and they die in horrible ways. But so it's not like one of those, well, it's a kid's book, so therefore they're not going to have scary things in it, or really, sadness or anything like that. No, there's some stuff in here, but it is a beautiful read. I absolutely love it. I would recommend it for anybody. But those are my top 3 reads. Let me know what your top 3 reads of 2025 is. I think it was an amazing year. I still got some books that I've got to finish of it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what my 2026 best books of the year or best series of the year are. So let me know what your favorite series are of this year. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Y'all take care.